And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast, along with my partners Brian Siegler, Jonathan Talley, and Shelton Moss. I am Curtis Wilson. This episode is brought to you by Dr. Jeremy Counts down at the Counts Family Pharmacy, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy, 301 South Main Street in Blacksburg. Boundary Corner podcast, also a part of the College Huddle Network. Boys, welcome to a winning Tuesday. How's everybody today?
Man, it's been a busy week for me, man. I haven't taken a breath since football started on Saturday between running around, watching games, stuff at work, trying to get ready for tonight. It's been busy, but it's been fun.
Yeah, definitely busy on my end always. Ripping and running, doing something, but it's football season. Some people's giving up already. I'm just getting started. I'm happy about it. Win or lose, draw. I'm happy to watch some football every week, all week. But this is a winning Tuesday. Sheldon, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. My week has not been busy because I'm unemployed, but hopefully that'll change soon. And we've got some good content coming out this week. I'll have an article for the key play coming out tomorrow talking about the passing game and Kyron Jones. So feeling good after a win. Hey, as they say, a win is a win. So Hokies are 2-1.
Win is a win.
That's better than being 1-2.
Yes.
That's correct. They also say good teams win, great teams
cover.
And tonight we're going to be talking all about the game down at ODU with Tell the Truth Tuesday. And then a little bit later on, Know the Enemy, where Larry K from the Rutgers Knight Watch, our buddy inside College Huddle Network, is going to be joining us, give a little insight on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. But let's start with some Tell the Truth Tuesday, because what went well, y'all, was Tally. You said the one big thing that had to happen is we needed to
break the curse, man. We gotta go beat the road allegations.
Nailed it.
What's the judgment?
We beat them. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get into some of it later on, but I got a lot of people that was feeling some type of way about the win or upset about it. We had a 100-yard rusher. Actually had 200-yard rushers, 150-yard passer, 100-yard receiver. Had a defensive end with 4 sacks. I don't care who you play against. If you get 4 sacks, I feel like you're balling.
Yep.
2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery for the same person. And our DB that struggled in the first game had another pick. So
2 in 2 games.
I mean, we had some good stuff going on. Yeah,
we did.
We had some bad stuff too, but we had some good stuff. So I'm all right with it.
Sheldon, what about you?
Yeah, it wasn't an underwhelming win. It was just a very whelming win. Nothing, we covered. We won by 20, really 27 before the backups gave that last touchdown. So, I would have liked to see it come out a little bit faster for the majority of the first half. Not going to give those big plays, but they did some good things. They did some not so good things. So I'm sure we'll talk about it all tonight.
You know what?
We will.
I saw improvement. And Sheldon says he was whelmed, not overwhelmed. I think Tally was he wasn't superstitious, but he was definitely a little stitious.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
I think we got over the hump a little bit. I'm excited that we scored some points, put up 37 against ODU. I'm excited that we covered. I'm excited that we were able to, as Tally said, beat the road allegations and finally get a victory down there in Norfolk. So, I mean, other than that second quarter, there's not a whole lot of complaints that I have for that game. And we're going to talk about the second quarter a little bit. But what I saw that impressed me the most was just drones and tooting on the ground and drones running with authority again. Authority, absolute authority.
He was bringing the hammer. Real quick, Brian, just so you know, we're a sentimental podcast.
There you go.
Sometimes. It's true. First of all, y'all said it. For me, finally winning a damn game down there in this series. It felt like, back in 2018, everything went wrong. Quarterback broke his leg. Nobody knew what they were doing on either side of the ball. We lose a shootout down there to ODU, and then just 2 years ago,
Math.
everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The ball that was in Norfolk was snapped to Williamsburg. We always talk about that.
Yeah.
This time none of that happened. We just went out and played. We did not play down. We played to them. And to what y'all have both said, I mean, let's talk about the drones into the true dog ground game. 232 combined, 3 touchdowns. And it wasn't fancy runs. It was that big run from drones. I mean, he was looking to hurt. He was looking to hurt somebody when he got downfield. It ain't even a joke about that.
Well, he broke the tackle there kind of at the point of attack and then just got out there in the open and looking for contact, and somebody brought it and he got stiff-armed into the dirt, made his mama feel it a little bit, and then the next dude got trucked. So 3 guys caught some allegations on that one.
Yeah, and it's like that's kind of the Kyron that we used to seeing, and they have, for whatever reason, went away from that. I understand you want to protect your quarterback. I will talk about it a little bit later, but I mean that's who he is. I mean, you can't stop Lamar Jackson from doing what Lamar Jackson does. He's small, he runs, he's going to take some hits, but if he doesn't have part of that as his game, he's not an effective quarterback. So, I mean, what we've seen from drones is what I expected to see most of the year, but I feel like they have kind of shied away from that. So, I don't know if it was a called play or he just said, I think at that point it was like 14-10, so it was still kind of close. And he was like, "All right, fuck this. We gotta do something." You know what I'm saying? And from then on, it kind of looked like, okay, let's start dominating the game.
100%.
Get on my back for a little bit. Let's go take a ride.
Sheldon, anything catch you stat wise, data wise, or just your eyes from watching those guys run?
No, not really stat wise or data wise or anything. I think it was just good to see the offense open up some explosive plays, and it had a couple of gadget plays. Parker Clemens, great job as a slot receiver. He was the
best jumping jacks I've seen. And you know what? We didn't throw it to him like UVA, so that
he didn't jump off sides.
We learned from the mistakes of our rivals. Don't throw it to the tackle. Let him be the decoy.
Yeah.
Yes,
So Sheldon, did you go rewatch that play?
I did rewatch it.
So did just the safety's head like immediately move to the left? Like, why is he doing that?
Yeah, no, they all took the bait, and Lane was just running down scot-free. I don't know if I'd be interested to see if PFF adds a snap for Parker as a slot receiver, and then puts that into his final PFF grade.
Perfect. He was a perfect slot receiver. He decoyed.
99.9 grade.
That was a good call. But you know what? I look at that play, and the first thing my thought was, the next time you run that, the safeties are going to go with Lane. And I know we get on Parker Clements a lot, but you imagine the safeties run up. If your outside guy locks up his guy, Kyron Sweet, with an offensive lineman just right in front of him. Mm-hmm. Think about that play design. Because the next time they're going to see.
The first thing I'm thinking about is Varsity Blues, man.
This
ain't that damn play where I run downfield and act like I'm lost, is it?
No, it's the play where you stand there and do jumping jacks.
Right.
But obviously, great game for Jay Lane as well. 125 total yards, that touchdown pass. And y'all, the play where, tell me y'all didn't get the feeling that whatever it was, bad snap, weird handoff, and that ball went tumbling. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hate to sit here. I sat here and everything from 2022 just came rushing back in my brain watching that play. Like, oh my God, no, not again. Not again. And then I'm like, okay, he got it. Throw it away. Throw it away. And the next thing you know, we gone.
Yeah, it wasn't really – I wasn't watching it in terror, actually, because it kind of happened quick, you know. So it was like when it happened, I think I text y'all and was like, oh, yeah, this is – like we're going to win the game. You can't have a couple of things like that happen and you don't win. You know what I'm saying? It's like –
True.
When you have stuff like that happen to you, it's like, yeah, that's your game. It doesn't matter what happens. Don't matter how close it is, you're going to win. You know, when we were in Vanderbilt, they put the ball on the ground 93 times, got all of them, picked one up, ran it around. Like, when shit like that happen, you just like, okay, somebody is on our side.
It's your damn night. It's your damn night.
Somebody. Speaking of Vanderbilt, I know this is a Virginia Tech podcast, and I know a lot of people are paying attention to Vanderbilt because we lost to them. Did anybody watch any of that game? Because it was not their night. And when I say not their night, it was when people ask, like, how do people lose? And, oh, Georgia State beat them and we couldn't. Go watch it. Go watch the game. And when stuff like what happens in those games happens, there's nothing you can do. It's like quarterback rolls out, he gets hit, fumbles the ball, you know, wasn't even a blindside hit. Then you got a guy that is a returner on the kickoff that gets a safety, you know, bobbles the ball, steps back into the end zone, grabs the ball, kneels it. They give him a safe. Like, when stuff like that happen, you're like, come on, man. Like, it's not your day. So it's like, man, sometimes you just got to watch games and stop watching, well, this team should beat this team and this thing. Like, it's all different. So every week's different. 17
to 20, well, in some cases, 23-year-old kids. In the case of, what is it, Oklahoma State, Utah, it's 24 and 25-year-old kids. I mean,
yeah.
So we'll talk about that later. But, Sheldon, let's go real quick because I think just from our eyes, especially Tally and Brian's eyes, we kind of already heard, I got a feeling offensive line probably played better, more across the board, more average to above average than what we've been dealing with is maybe a couple people are above average and multiple people below average. So what did they look like this week?
Yeah, it was pretty solid overall, certainly just based on the eye test. You know, they kind of opened up a little bit in the second half once they kind of started to wear ODU down. But, you know, Parker Clements, for as much grief as people give him, and sometimes it's been justified, but not so in this case, he was a 75.8, which was really good. We saw Johnny Garrett sub in for Xavier Chaplin. He was solid at 68, so that was good to see. And then in pass protection, Caden Moore was really good. He was a top grader at 85, which is very good for an offensive lineman. So, you know, we saw Brody Meadows get some snaps too. You kind of got into the bench a little bit, and he actually did extremely well in the limited time he was in the game. So I thought it was a pretty solid performance from the front five.
And again, I told y'all last year, it was that third game with drones where like things start clicking. We start feeling this is the offense more and more, and the guys have to get comfortable. And it's one of those things we can scream at, we can be mad all year. This happens to a lot of teams. We're not the only team in the country this happens to. It irritates us probably more than any fan base in the country, but that's neither here nor there. And that might be an episode in the off season that we might be working on. But
I think it's more with how often we end up doing it. When there is any stakes at play, whether it's, you know, a Boise
14 years ago
back to back, whether, you know, all these weird things that happen at the start of the year for the Hokies when there's any sort of expectations attached to a team.
It's true.
It just feels like, you know, there's a reason that chokies exist. And that's one of them.
All right. Well, let's roll on to the defensive side of the ball with APR because Tally's already mentioned it. What a absolute ball game he had because he have 7 total tackles. He had the trifecta when it comes to hitting the quarterback: the strip, the sack, and the fumble recovery. He had 4 total sacks. Second time he's had 4 total sacks. And I'm going to just let these guys say it. The only other person in Virginia Tech history to do that is
Bruce
Smith.
Bruce Smith. So that is on some level. Cool part was Smith was standing on the sidelines to see him do it. Like, and APR said in the post, he's like, yeah, he dapped me up before the game. It was just like, you know, and it's cool where it happened, especially with APR being down there. And, I mean, that was the best he looked all year. Like, he finally looked comfortable for the first time, at least in my eyes. Brian, what did you feel? Did you see from APR? Because it looked like that was the APR middle of last season where teams were having to just think about him every snap.
Yeah, I mean, the explosion's been there, and I think this was a time that was right for him to kind of take that step because we talked about it on this show last week that this offensive line wasn't a ton to write home about. It was time for the guys on our defensive line to have a feast, and I'm glad to see that they showed up and answered the bell for that.
Miss Tally?
Oh yeah, definitely. Not much to throw in besides what you guys have already said. It's like he was bigger, faster, and stronger than them, and he went out and he was bigger, faster, and stronger than them. Like from the jump, you could tell whoever was trying to block him couldn't do it. So whatever quarterback would have been back there, he was getting to him. So I was excited to see. And like I said, man, the thing that kills me though is when people say like, "Oh, well, it was ODU." It don't matter. Like we played Delaware, we played Wofford, Rhode Island. We played a lot of schools, and people don't get 4 sacks against them. So if somebody gets 4 sacks in a game, I'm hyping it. I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're playing the school of the blind and deaf.
Yeah. And I mean, ODU gave that Gamecock team more hell on the road, and then that same team turned around and gave LSU every bit that it wanted. So that's not an awful team that we went down to Norfolk and played. So I think we need to remember that a little bit. Their offensive line might not be exactly what you would want to write home about, but that team as a whole is a pretty solid G5 team.
Well, you got to think about this with South Carolina. What they scored 23 on them, and 14 was because the offense turned the ball inside the 20-yard line.
Yeah, something like that.
Like South Carolina didn't drive that ball at all against ODU, and I know it's again what Tally you were just trying to say. It's week to week and things like that. And Sheldon, I'm sure you could probably find data about like to show us like how teams perform because it's the crazy thing I feel about college football versus pro is I feel like pro is always more predictable outcomes. I feel like college, it is legitimately like playing, I don't know, you want to say roulette? Callie, you go down to the casino.
I'm interested when you say roulette. So
but it's roulette. It's like where are you going to place the bet? How are you going to stagger it out? So yeah, but real quick, I noticed I think APR second highest defensive end or defensive player this week, Sheldon, in PFF grades.
Yeah, something like that. I know he was the Walter Camp Player of the Week for the entire country. So very well deserved honor.
Yeah, really good on that. High PFF grades and everything. And I think just in general, really, other than the second quarter, the defense showed up. The defense showed up to what we thought they were going to be. I know, Shelton, you've got the data point in here. I don't know if you texted the group or just me and talking about missed tackle rates, how it went down again. What is your perspective, just the data and just watching the game? Is the defense slowly morphing into what we thought it would be from Jump Street, Sheldon?
I think it's getting there. I mean, I know they moved up to 35th in SP Plus this weekend for defense, which was, kind of where they started the year. They're, a little bit better than the offense right now. So, but yeah, I mean, like, I like the way Tally's thinking. It's not about who you played, it's how you played. And APR got his second career 4-sack game. Last one was against Wake Forest last year. So, look, he was a dog, 91.1 PFF grade, which was, like I said, one of the best in the country. And that's really hard to do as a D lineman. Just from what I can see, it's, the D-line grades for PFF are much more kind of condensed in that sort of average range. But a 90-plus grade is really good. So, you mentioned the 4 sacks, 5 total QB pressures, which was great, and then missed tackles. I was looking at this because I've been following it for throughout the course of the year. Tech had a 14% missed tackle rate, which was a significant improvement from the last 2 weeks. That's really good. I think national average is right around 18 to 20%. So they cut that down a lot, which is great to see. Not having guys break tackles and get free in the secondary. Obviously, you got to make sure that they're not running free, which happens sometimes. But always good to wrap guys up. So and then you look at some of the advanced stats. We saw a lot of blue on that that advanced stat chart on GameOnPaper.com, which is always a good thing. You want to see blue. 31% success rate for ODU, which was 9th percentile of all games this year. So they really just smothered them, really. So that was good to see.
Brian?
Yeah, and I mean, when we talk about success rate and getting better game to game, it helps when a defense is coming into their own and not having to play a triple option offense. So if we're seeing improvement, that's one of the reasons. We're not seeing a funky look where responsibilities are significantly different than they would be week to week. So we're getting into a little more consistent offensive attack. We're going to see, we'll talk about here in a little bit, but we're going to see a lot more of that this week, a little more conventional offensive attack. So, not looking so much for the quarterback to have a lot of misdirection, doing a lot of keepers, much less of that going forward. And that's going to be a good thing for this defense, I feel like, because when they can play the way they have the last couple weeks, that's going to bode well for us, because that's going to keep us in every game, regardless of what the offense is doing.
Anything to add to that, Telly?
No, not really, man. I mean, we talked a lot about what went good. I mean, you always want to talk about what goes good after a win, but when you talk about what went good, you also have to talk about what went bad. So,
no lie,
Curtis, I'm gonna toss it to you, and you're gonna start us with what went bad.
Well, y'all know what I texted about Saturday night was we gave up 3 runs, 40 plus yards, and that's not good, especially when the other team only rushes for 243 yards on close to 40 carries. And if you do the math, 140 of that on 3 of them. That was the issue last year we saw at times. And right. I listened to the post game stuff, and I re-looked at the 65-yard touchdown run. And by all means, I'm trying to figure out exactly what the defensive end, why is his name blanking on me right now? Yeah, what CJ McCray was doing. And the other one, a little a misfit. It's like we can survive against ODU like that. Yeah. We're about to start a stretch of games. We can't survive. You cannot give up those big runs. And I could hear a little pissed offness in Pry's voice, because one of those runs, he was true. It should have been a 15-yard game. It should not have been a 40-plus yard game.
Right.
And
that's what happens. That's what happens when you guess, Curtis. When you said you didn't know what he was doing, he was guessing.
Well, hold on.
You want to make a big play. You want to hit the running back because you guess that's where the ball's going. But your responsibility is probably the quarterback, which just ran for a 65-yard touchdown. So you got to be disciplined. That's what it comes to. On all phases of the game, you got to be disciplined. Whatever your job is, you got to do that job. Now, from what I can see, I think that was his man, but it was nobody else there. You know what I'm saying? And if you're in that kind of coverage, you got to kind of know what's going on and where everybody is. So,
yeah, especially against that offense where they've got their receivers outside the numbers. So you don't really have as much support as you would normally have from those guys playing corner, guys playing nickel, depending on where they are, maybe even the safety there. So you don't have the help that you normally would have against that type of offense. So if they get to the alley, they're going to be running for a bit.
Yeah.
Shelton, anything on either of those plays? Again, Shelton usually goes back and rewatches it. I try to sometimes. Sometimes I just don't fit into my life. But did you throw when you saw the running plays again, Shelton? Did you throw anything the second time? You're like, what are you doing?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I
good.
mean, obviously, I don't know. We don't know exactly what everyone's responsibility is, and that's above my pay grade a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that was probably the one. Really, the only area of the game that they struggled in was with the explosive run plays. I mean, because like I said, with the advanced stats chart, everything was good for Tech except for the run stuff. So, if we want to talk about this when we get there, but the big plays have really been the sore spot for the defense this year. So that's kind of why it's a little bit concerning when you got a team like Rutgers that comes in and has a really good running game coming to Lane Stadium next week or this week. So they got to get it cleaned up somehow, some way.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go to the next one that what went bad, and I'm gonna pitch this to you, Tally, because I want to hear your anger on this. So you up 14-0. You had a fast start, right? Good
Yeah.
start. You drive again. You're at the 25-yard line. You got John Love, who is one of the more accurate kickers, not only in Virginia Tech history, right now in college football. And
Yeah.
it's 4th and 4. What are you supposed to do there? Are you really supposed to go for it?
Man, I'm taking the layups, man. I know you wanna lean on the team that you're supposed to be better than, or you're supposed to do this. And I'm just the kind of person where I feel like you got momentum, don't give it up. At that point, like you said, if you had a questionable kicker or you had the perfect play call, sure. But John Love has been money. I'm giving him an opportunity to go and get him another stat. Hey, man, go kick this field goal for us. So that's just how I feel. I mean, it's good to be aggressive, but at the same time, sometimes that comes back and bites you. And I feel like it always come back and bite us as Virginia Tech fans when something like that happens. You miss a field goal, then they score, then this happens. Take the points, because you take those points. If you hit that, then you're up 17-0.
They got to drive the ball 3 times.
Yeah, I just feel when that happened, I was yelling, take the point. So I feel like that was a missed opportunity for us.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we get a little out of kilter as far as when to be aggressive and when to just take, like Tally said, take the layups. That was definitely one. I mean, I know we were in a group chat. We were sending messages. We were like, kick it, kick it, kick it, kick it. And I mean, like Tally said, you want to lean on them. You want to go out there and assert yourself. You want to say, hey, we can get the first down here. But sometimes you just got to take the points and move on to the next drive, because you've shown you can drive the football. You're going to get some more opportunities. Take the points.
Yeah.
Sheldon, any comments on that? Any analytics where it says go for it there, or what's your?
No. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what different analytics charts will say different things. I think you probably in that situation probably go with the flow, like take the points. 4th and 4. That's kind of, for me, that's kind of like iffy territory. I just don't have a huge amount of confidence in VT being able to convert that. So I would just say take the points. Maybe if you're playing, I think if you're an underdog, it makes more sense to be aggressive and risky. I don't think it makes sense in that situation where you're playing against a team that you're better than.
Yeah.
See, why I was also pissed off about that, because up to that point they had 18 yards offense, 18 yards, and it's really funny. You see how the momentum switches, because at that point you kick the field goal, they have no belief. There is the honest truth is, I wonder if they get to 10 in that quarter, because now you're up 17 and they're like, oh my God, are we going to be able to do this?
All right.
You gave them belief. Don't give the underdogs belief ever. Couple other things that went bad. That first kick of John's, I was like, did John miss one? No, he got it blocked.
Yeah.
That is now the 3rd effective big blunder on special teams this year. It's been one a week. And now it's a trend now. And now I sit here and say, what's going to happen next week? What are we going to screw up?
And it's something different each time. So that's where it's a little more frustrating. You can't even necessarily, draw a circle around, okay, well, we need to improve, how we're fair catching footballs, or we need to improve how we're blocking on kickoff, or, how we're protecting on punt. Like there's something different every week. So that's a little more frustrating, because you can't necessarily say it's one thing or the other. It's a little bit of everything. We've seen a coaching blunder directly with the numbers. You see, okay, well, they went to a different look and we didn't call a timeout. Should we have been prepared for that? Should that be a coaching thing that we should have just stopped and said, let's look at it again on the block punt? And then now you've got a blocked field goal, where early in that game, it didn't look like we were doing a good job with protection up the middle. Regardless, we were getting folks were kind of shooting the gaps in the middle of that field goal unit. So that's something to look at. But again, it's kind of inconsistent across the board on special teams, with no real fixed area that we can look at.
Yeah, I mean, a special teams unit was really good last year. Statistically, one of the top units in the country. So I know there were some nefarious individuals on Twitter who wanted to fire Stu Holt. He really,
every week.
yeah, every
Week.
single week. I'm not gonna name names, but we know who they
We'll see you
were.
in wrestling season.
But yeah,
We
I mean,
know
the
who
thing
you
is
are.
with special teams, there's such a limited sample size of plays that if you have 3 or 4 really bad ones, it kind of hurts you a lot in the stats. So I don't know. I mean, it could just be players not executing. Maybe it's a coaching problem, but I don't know. I think Stu Holt's done mostly pretty good job. So well, I guess we kind of just got to see how it plays out the rest of the year.
All right, fellas. Anything else in y'all's opinion went bad on Saturday?
I mean, we had another slow second quarter. Other than that, looking at big picture for this game, second quarter aside, I don't really have a ton of complaints.
All right,
Same.
Charlie, Sheldon.
Same.
My only other complaint went bad. I would have liked to have buried them in the third quarter because our defense gave us every opportunity to put that game away at 28-10 in the third quarter. It took us to the fourth to finally knock them out. That's my biggest bad. Like, especially.
You went on mute, bud.
Muted yourself, Kurt. Still muted. We don't know what's going on with Curtis. Somebody didn't want him to talk, so they put him on mute. Why we got Curtis on mute? Okay, you back. Here we go.
All right, y'all gonna have to run it for a second because something's going on with my mic again, y'all.
Well, while Curtis is having mic problems, we're just gonna bring New King to the forefront. We ain't fucking worried about Miami right now. We're worried about Rutgers. We'll talk to you next week. I don't even know who y'all play this week, but you better be worried about whoever y'all play. We'll talk to you next week, New King. Thank you for joining in.
South Florida. Because if y'all don't remember, a couple weeks ago, South Florida. Sorry, y'all, I completely lost everything. A couple weeks ago, South Florida went into Tally's home state and gave a team that's a whole lot more talented a hell of a run.
Oh yeah,
Saturday night.
Had them boys sweating bullets down there in Tuscaloosa.
Yes, they did. All right, let's go this real quick. Brian, anything happened you were not prepared for?
I wasn't prepared for finally jumping out the gate and getting a fast start. I didn't necessarily. It was one of those things I wanted to happen, but I wasn't necessarily prepared for it. So when it happened, it was very much a whoa. Okay, this is what we can do out the gate. This is what I was expecting at Vanderbilt. I got it at ODU, so I'm thankful for it here, but I was expecting it there.
What about you, Tally? Anything that you were not prepared for to happen?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say. Yeah, I guess you can't really be prepared for like injuries. You know what I'm saying? Like right out of the gate, Chaplin goes down. We don't see him anymore. Jennings was real limited. I don't know exactly what's going on with him, but he went down. So just a couple of things. The injuries, I wasn't really prepared for that. But on the upside, some of the people that came in and played for him, I mean, they looked good. It helped that we had a little bit of depth, especially on the offensive line. So I wasn't prepared for that, but it was good to see.
Yeah, I think that's where we sat earlier about a month ago and talked about depth, right? Like we felt like depth at certain positions was a lot better. So Tally, I'm with you. When I saw Garrett, because Xavier was in there for a couple plays, and then next thing you know, he's gone. Coach Robbie texts me like, "Who the hell 79? He ain't got no name." I'm like,
no nameplate, no nameplate, baby.
And you know what? They apparently they were thinking of doing something tricky, with that, because with no nameplate, that means there's going to be two 79s on the field. I don't know if there's a 79 on defense or not. So yeah. The other thing that for me that I like Brian was not prepared for, was that fast start, because it had been so slow and had just been, and when it's pop, you are dictating, in the words of Brian Siegler, you are dictating the terms to what you want to do. We did that right out of the gate, and that's something we had not been able to do lately. So it's just good to see that, because I think it's fan that gives you hope, right? Where you say, okay, we can take the ball the first time, go score some points.
Curtis, let me ask you something. I ain't even
Go ahead,
thinking about this on the rundown, but another thing I wasn't really prepared for. Did you see how much we used the backup quarterback in the slot and stuff? Like what are we setting something up? Like I was on my end, I was looking at it like we've got a lot of receivers that can run some plays in the rounds, whatever, put them in and we might get a score. But on the other hand, like I'm wondering what they're trying to do. So what do you feel about that, Curtis? Seeing Schlee in there as much as he was.
Well, I heard it a couple of times and saw it. It's just like, to your point, it's like we got all these receivers. We know Ali was banged.
Yeah.
Coach said it after game. He tweaked something. And at the point where it was like, okay, well, he probably can go back in. It's like, well, hold on. We're winning the game. Put him to the side. But as much as we saw that, what did you think when he went from shotgun? They got drones over in the slot.
I didn't know what to think.
Well, the only thing I saw was like, wait a second, what are we about to run here? And then it's like a fake reverse, and Schlee went up. I mean, it was a beautiful little quarterback sweep because my first thought of the inclination is those safeties back there saw drones, and they saw them going by like, he's going to hand it off to him, and he's going to chuck it on us. And he didn't, and then it's a 10-yard gain. Right. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I also think, you know what I thought to myself, Tally? I think the confidence in Pop has gone up. I think the confidence Pop is up now where they feel, hey, we have this dynamic player. He started a bunch of games. He knows college speed. How can we utilize that? All right. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, that I think that's a good point. I think, you got to take advantage of the talent that you have out there. And when you have a guy that can throw but is an athlete, that gives you another wrinkle, right? And there's nothing wrong with adding an extra wrinkle to your offense.
And you know what? Another thing is kind of you got to play the game within the game. So if Kyron decides to move on after this year, to go on to bigger and better things, what does your quarterback situation look like? Like you kind of got to depend on Pop. He's been in the system. This is his second year, right? So going into next year will be year 3. If he doesn't touch the field at all, does he decide to leave? You know what I mean? So things like that. So it was good to see him get on the field. And like you said, Curtis, I can maybe see that and agree with that, where they've got a little bit more confidence in him where, hey, if something happens where you're winded, we ain't going to even say hurt. You're winded and can't go in. We do have another quarterback that we can put in.
And he did go in. He did go in last series.
I can see that.
All right. As always, we get to our last piece here. Hopefully, Shelton has figured out his internet. All sorts of technical issues tonight on the Boundary Corner podcast. That happens occasionally. But what can we do better moving forward? I know Shelton's got something he wants to do in the passing game, so I'm going to try to hold him off to the end. But what about you, Tally? There he is. So Sheldon, you are going to be our last one because I know you got a lot to say and you got an article coming out. But Tally, Sheldon's going to talk about the passing game and all that. But what are you looking at with what can we do better moving forward?
I'll say what can we do better moving forward is mainly just a defensive run fits for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I don't know the schemes that they run. I just know kind of what I see and what I know of football. The free-flowing schemes is kind of having linebackers that can run side to side is great, but sometimes you got to have a gap responsibility and come downhill and hit. Because if you're constantly going side to side and not north and south, sometimes things get by you. So I'd like to see us just build on what we've been doing. You're going to have a physical game this week. Mm-hmm. They're going to come in. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be physical. You're going to have your opportunity to size somebody up and hit them. So we don't need Sheldon to be having to spend his whole night talking about missed tackle rates and PWIs and WWFs. We need y'all to come downhill and hit somebody. That's your gap. Don't let nobody come through it. So I like to see that moving forward.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it, and I'm gonna flip it to the other side. Let's get more of our weapons involved in the offense consistently. I know we've got a couple guys with nicks. I know we got a couple guys that are still kind of working themselves back into playing shape. I'd like to see Felton get more targets. I'd like to see, if Jennings is healthy, I'd like to see him get some more targets. Right now we have a good problem that we have probably too many mouths to feed from a wide receiver standpoint. At the same time, I think because they each bring a little bit of a different skill set to the table, it'd be nice to see them all get involved because that's going to make the offense more dynamic.
I'm gonna throw something on that before we go to the next thing too. Kind of what Brian was saying, too many mouths to feed and more targets and stuff. Another thing with the players, and they have to realize, and I know it's a hard thing to do, but I think they're fully capable of it. Like when you're getting like limited opportunities, you have to make the best of the opportunity when you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've seen some wide receivers go to all games. Ball hits you in the hands, you drop it because you're excited you're getting it. Like, you got to make that catch because you don't know when it's going to come around again. You got to think about your quarterback back there. He's getting the ball to who he's comfortable with. When things go awry and Kyron starts scrambling around back there, if you go look at the games, who does he look for? He's looking for Jay Lane or he's looking for Gosnell. But they're also knowing where to go and getting in the position to be open. So, I'd like to see some of our playmakers. If everybody's on the scramble drill, everybody just get in the scramble drill. I know we can't throw it to everybody, but you got to be open sometimes too. And I'm not saying that they're not because I can't see the whole field, but I'm just saying if I'm looking at things from a past perspective, like there's a couple of people that are getting open. When he's scrambling around, when Curtis said that ball was bouncing around and he was nervous, like I knew when he picked it up and that first man missed him, I was like, Gosnell's going to be open. And it was Jay Lane. But so that's what I wanted to add to that.
Nice. Sheldon, I'm going to let you go, man, because you've got some stuff you mentioned to us that going better moving forward. You wrote an article about it. Go, man.
Yeah, so the biggest thing I think that has to improve is the passing game. It's been a little bit lackluster so far this year through 3 games. So some of the key stats, Hokies are 105th in passing success rate, and that includes passes and sacks as well. A little bit better in the rush game, but really the pass game has been kind of their biggest sore spot. So when I was looking at numbers this week, what I found was that teams are playing zone extremely often against Tech. 81%, if memory serves, zone defense. That's a 40% increase from last year. So what they're trying to do, I think, is flood the passing lanes, get Kyron off his primary read, make him go through his second and third progressions, essentially have him scan the field and try to be a drop back passer. And for the most part, it's worked pretty well. Particularly, one thing that Tech had success with last year was their short passing game. They're really good there in terms of, throwing behind a lot of scrimmage, screen passes, get the ball to your playmakers, get it out quickly. Don't let your O-line block for a long period of time and let your playmakers make plays in space. Now, that worked really well last year, but this year, their efficiency on those short throws has just plummeted. I think Drones was second worst passer rating among all Power 4 quarterbacks in efficiency on short throws. So, that's a big sore spot for me. I think, obviously it's easier when, you got guys looking at the quarterback, they're not logging onto their man. And I just think that, Drones has to be able to scan the field a little bit better, be more consistent in his footwork and his mechanics, because I think that's where he struggled a little bit. When you're on your second or third read and you're sitting there in the pocket, having to go through those progressions, and it's easy to, maybe get a little bit rushed, in which case your mechanics suffer. So I think if Drones, the hope is that he can have the game slow down for him a little bit, because this is really the first time in his career where he's been forced to be a traditional drop back passer. And it's been a challenge. So I think hopefully he gets better with more experience. But if I'm a Tech fan, that's the biggest concern for me, is like, can Tech be efficient against zone defense when other teams know they're passing the ball? Can they push it downfield?
Yep. And I think to a point, I'm glad you make the point with the zone versus man in that case, Shelton, because one way you can do zone busters and everything is roll the pocket and move Kyron, because immediately you start moving him, they're downfield, they're locked on him. They're usually vacating zones. People are getting off their spots. We talked about, I think you mentioned a couple weeks ago, we're not rolling the pocket much. It's okay to do that. Get him comfortable, because we have seen when he has gotten comfortable, he is going to make the throws, but you've got to get him there every week. And if it's rolling the pockets, if it runs zone reads, RPO, stuff like that, that's on Tyler Bowen, though. Tyler Bowen's his first thought should be, my first 10 plays should be get Kyron comfortable. And whether it's him running or him passing. So I'll go flip it. I didn't even write this on here. Go better moving forward, get Kyron comfortable quicker. Because the quicker he's comfortable, the quicker he's going to do exactly what Sheldon's talking about. He's going to be more comfortable in the pass, going through his reads. One more piece I'll say I want to see better going forward. I don't want any more special teams blunders. I want a clean game Saturday. I don't want double jerseys. I don't want to block kick. I don't want to block punt. Clean. Write that down. And the honest truth is this. That was the best game we've played all year. It's been 3 games in. The best complete game. I still think the best half of football was probably against Vanderbilt. Honest to God truth, I think that was the best half we've played all year. But a complete game beginning to end, that's it. And I think we sit here, and probably everybody watching us tonight and our fans, I don't think we're even close to the peak yet.
No.
I don't think we're close to the peak.
Still ain't played a complete game.
Still ain't played a complete game. Still haven't played our best game. So that's where I'm going to leave that. One last piece. A lot of people injured and questionable this week. And it's going to happen. But I'm for one, everybody who's banged up, just let them sit till Saturday. And I know you want them to go through practice, but it's like practice is a good thing, but we need games. All righty. So, fellas, as y'all know, we are brought to you by Counts Family Pharmacy, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy located at 301 South Main Street in Blacksburg. I did not get a chance to reach out to Jeremy this week to figure out who's sending me the PS5. I'm going to have to call him
Somebody
up.
won a PS5 and they're supposed to send it to Curtis. So if you're listening,
if you want it, just
get it to him.
Just put your name right here in the comment section, and I'll get with you and get you my address. So we jump from the Hokies and Tell the Truth Tuesday to now we are going to get to know the enemy. And just like last week, we have found another very special guest. So we are introducing this week, part of the College Huddle, Larry K., who is from the Rutgers Knight Watch. Larry, how are you doing this evening, sir?
How you fellas doing? I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Man, rocking and rolling. It was fun. For those that don't know, me and Larry had a nice little 45-minute conversation earlier today. I talked a little Hokies with him. He's returning the favor, talking a little Scarlet Knights with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my show, Brian came on and people got a lot from it. So it was a lot of fun today. And then I had to hop off and do a pro football thing and back with you guys. So excited about the game Saturday. Excited to talk Rutgers and to let you guys know whatever you want to know.
Awesome. Well, Larry, before we get into all the nuts and bolts of the offense, defense, and a little bit about Rutgers this year, a little bit about yourself. How did you stumble upon doing a Rutgers football podcast?
So I had kind of an audio background. I had done like different podcasts growing up, sometimes current events podcasts. I was into music growing up, so I kind of had it set up with a microphone and keyboard and all Pro Tools and all this audiological stuff. So I started doing, believe it or not, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan for the NFL, even though I'm a Jersey guy. Long story, not worth going into today. But I started a podcast doing that because I'm like, okay, I want to talk just about my pro team, whatever. It kind of took off. So then I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm a Rutgers fan too. And I go to every game and I'm an alum. And I'm like, there's really not a lot of, content out there on a regular basis for Rutgers stuff, aside from the beat writers and whoever. So there's a void there. And if I could fill that with the equipment and the wherewithal I already have, maybe it could go well. And it so far has gone well. And then I went on with Zach Guggenheim of Big Ten Talk and Big Ten Football Talk. And then he was kind of involved with setting up the College Huddle. So they extended me the invite. I used to write for a site called On the Banks, which was like the Rutgers portion of SB Nation. And so they kind of ran it kind of professionally over there. So I was able to write for them for quite a while. Aaron Brightman at the Scarlet Faithful, who runs his own podcast, brought me onto that. And he was my editor. So then when there was an opportunity to go out on my own, I did it. And I write creatively and whatnot. So it was kind of like an easy transition. hey, and it's a lot easier to talk all the time than to write it down. So kind of did Night Watch, my show, and took off from there.
That's awesome, Larry. And I love hearing kind of that journey, because I think everybody that's a podcaster kind of has their own unique journey of how they got to this, whether it's just having a fun chat with some fans, or whether they kind of went through, like writing, doing other podcasts and other venues. And then you kind of get to, well, here's my passion, and kind of, you find your niche in that fandom. But it's good to hear that. Like I said, I love jumping on with you earlier. It was a really good time, and just chopping it up and talking some football with you. So we're going to get to it. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You got offensive coordinator Kirk Shiraka. What can we expect from this Scarlet Knights offense when it kicks off at 3:30 on Saturday?
We are, as most probably know and suspect, we are a ground and pound. First thing we want to do is establish the run game. Kyle Monungai, really, really tough runner.
Monster.
Absolute monster. Came out of high school with Jalen Berger in the same class, and Jalen got all the hype and fanfare. But Monungai has been the steady presence who's developed from freshman to now. Decided to come back. I thought his stock was pretty high last year. Came back to school for this year. Has been running his butt off the first 2 weeks already. They're going to like to try to get in there, inside the tackles, inside the guards. But every once in a while, once they've established that, Kyle's going to see the pile, and he's going to cut back and try to find a lane outside and cut around that way. They try to build the pass game off of the run. You might have some play fakes, and they're going to try to take a deep shot or two. Last year, Gavin Wimsett was the quarterback, had a lot of wheels, had a lot of legs. But this year, Ethan Kaliakmanis, who's a Minnesota transfer, came in. And he was a starter for about a year and a half, I believe, at Minnesota. He's reunited with Kirk Shiraka, and he's pretty accurate quarterback. I think his issues might come in when he tries to squeeze it a little bit into coverage, but he can hit guys in stride. He can hit guys down the field. So you're looking for a running offense that tries to take its shots. The only thing that's non-traditional, and I say traditional, I'm talking, millennial. So the 80s I formation's not there. We got one back, 3 wideouts, and a tight end. But other than that, it looks fairly traditional.
Hey, let me ask this, Larry. What was the feeling, not only of yourself, but your friends, fellow alums, when the Gavin Wimsett did leave, and they brought in Athena? Or you said his name perfect. I'm terrible at names, y'all know. The Greek kid. The Greek kid. That's what I want to call him.
Another Greek name we could go down. Yeah.
Yeah. But what was the thought? Because, like, with us, Wimsett, I mean, he gashed us last year with some of those read options, some of those, like quarterback sweeps. And for us, we're looking like he's gone. Well, wait a second. There goes the running element away.
I think, for the longest time, Rutgers, and there's been these debates in football circles, Rutgers has a chance to get athletes at the quarterback position given their recruiting territory. And should we go for a dual threat quarterback? We finally do it with Gavin, who happens to be from Kentucky. I really liked the kid, quite frankly. He came in young. He was developing. He had wheels, and he had the arm talent. The thing was, as the season progressed, I think Rutgers fans thought that, wow, we're in a better position in 2023 than we actually expected to be. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. And if you look at some of the games down the stretch, get bowl eligible fairly early. Everybody expected it because of the way the schedule, shook out, that we would lose a lot of games towards the end of the year. But nonetheless, it kind of takes its toll on the fan base. And they're saying, if we could have completed a pass here, this guy was wide open there. There were accuracy issues with Gavin Wimsett that were hard to deny. Now, I loved the player, and I actually was still rooting for him. They bring in Ethan Kaliakmanis, and I'm rooting for Gavin to continue to progress and to win the quarterback competition. But after spring ball, and even during the spring game, it's just evident that Ethan's landing simple passes, screen passes, quick slants, passes that get the ball in the hands of, I think, some pretty talented playmakers that, given the running game, if you can protect the ball, and Gavin wasn't a turnover machine. He just wasn't completing his passes at a high enough clip. If you can be a little more accurate and land the ball in the hands of your playmakers early in a play, I think Rutgers thought they had a chance to be even better. And after spring ball, Shiano talked with Gavin, from what I understand, and the competition wasn't even close. So Gavin was afforded the chance to go elsewhere. Now, you lose something with the wheels with Ethan Kaliakmanis. Now, he can tuck it. There's designed runs. He has some wheels, not the same type of wheels. From watching the first 2 weeks, there could be issues where, Gavin wouldn't have thrown it or would have thrown it away. Maybe Ethan's trying to sneak it in there. At the same time, there's a lot. The ball is on the numbers. The ball's on time. And it's on time and on the numbers at a much greater clip than we saw with Gavin. So it's a different attribute from the quarterback position. But I think Rutgers thinks anyway, and Kirk Shiraka thinks it's beneficial because now the ball's in the hand of your playmakers. Gavin was a playmaker, so it's give and take. But
yeah. So you're losing some of that dynamic playmaking ability, but you're upping the chance of getting the ball more quickly and accurately to your other playmakers in that offense. So,
yes.
like you said, some give and take there. Since you talked about the playmakers, who were some of the other playmakers on this offense?
Well, what's interesting is I was going to kind of, and I thank you for the segue there too. I mean, Christian Dremel was the leading receiver on the team last year. He's now the fourth receiver on the team. I mean, and that just kind of shows how much they tried to build up that playmaking talent. Now, Chris Long, who broke a bunch of high school records in New Jersey, he's a junior. He's been with the team for quite some time, but he constantly would run into injury problems every year. He's a deep ball threat. He had a long touchdown against Akron the other week. And he's back in the starting lineup. He's on the edge. Daimir Miller comes up a level from Monmouth University. He was the leading MAC receiver last year. And he came up and he's been in the slot. He's been a really, really good at getting separation, coming back for the ball. He knows the intricacies of route running. And he's actually been a really good asset to the team. Dremel was kind of playing that position, and now he's the backup. And then you have Ian Strong, who was from Long Island. He's a sophomore. Last year, you saw some flashes. He's a bigger-bodied receiver. He can get open. He has good hands. You saw some flashes last year, especially in the red zone. And now this year, he's taken the next step. I mean, his body has changed a lot. He's really come into his own, and he's playing on the edge. So those three guys, in addition to Manungai, are an interesting bunch. And then you have Fletcher, the tight end, who was a converted D lineman, and he's got 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks. Victor Konopka is the other tight end. You look at their blocking abilities, and they're still developing in that realm. But as far as going out and catching the ball, Fletcher's been a pleasant surprise and a nice addition. So watch for him to come out in the flat. They like to set that up too. You're looking at the guys downfield. You got the play fake. All of a sudden, Kyle is going to block, and Fletcher's breaking off into the flat. He's got 2 touchdowns that way. So they like those short passes. They like to get the ball in the hands of these athletes and run it that way.
Larry, something that's been a little bit more impressive to me as well, a name you didn't mention, is the backup running back. I think it's Raymond. When Manungai goes out or he's catching a breather, I mean, y'all's backup running back is getting 5 yards to carry as well. So it's just kind of a implication to what your offensive line is doing. I mean, again, like I say about our team, it doesn't matter who you play. It matters about you. Like, you can play the best of the best or the worst teams in the country. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're not going to be effective. Anybody getting 5 yards to carry, it looks like that offensive line is pushing. So, again, I know you didn't mention that name, but that was one of the names that I looked at. And if your running back is doing good, your starting running back is doing good, and your backup running back is coming in and they're getting 5 yards to carry, somebody's blocking.
Well, and just to your point too, he's actually the third when Sam Brown is healthy. Sam Brown's number 2, Raymond's number 3, and then you have Benjamin, who got some run last year. But great point. I mean, when I look at those first 2 games, I'm trying to glean what I can from the way we executed, the way Rutgers executed, and not so much on the opponent. There were some things, obviously, that I was critical of, but then some things looked good. That offensive line has come a very long way from being really undersized in the Big Ten a couple years ago, really getting manhandled and pushed around, to last year really took root where against Ohio State, before they pulled away in the second half, I mean, we were running the ball well on them. And that offensive line returns a bunch of starters too. And so, you got Big Holland Pierce on the end. He might be a draft pick. You have Zelinskis, who's another interior lineman, a center. That's another Greek name trying to get right. But you caught me right. I'm like, I got on Curtis for the Athena, and now look at me with the S in the.
Hey
T.
Larry, when I sent you over the outline there, you saw I had the pronunciations in there. There's a reason for
I
that.
was going to compliment you, sir, on that, and I was like, I need to do that for my guests and whatnot because it's helpful. Sometimes you're looking at a name, you're like, oh boy, what am I going to do? Am I going to get this right?
Hey, we gotta get Larry off here, y'all. I just because we just called him in a lie. He said they're undersized, and then we look at Holland Pearson. He's 6'8", 350. Nothing about that man says undersized.
No, so he's a big. So they were an undersized line. He was one of the first guys who they were just looking for big bodies. So he's a kid from Trenton. Showed up, the story goes, in the parking lot, and I'm sure it was arranged or whatever, but really needed a lot of development, with his body, with his skills, and this coaching staff has developed him, and he is you're sitting like my seats are pretty close, and I'm looking, this dude is towering over everybody, and he's a big man. So it started with him, and then they really built that line, so it's a testament now that we can run the ball the way we are. It's the O-line, and I say this in any football conversation I'm in. I know you guys brought it up, so you already know. Starts in the trenches, man. And the fact that the trenches have been much better, that's why Rutgers is better right now.
Sean, what you got?
Yeah, well, Tally kind of took my question because I wanted to ask how that running back trio kind of plays off each other. It seems like they've all got some pretty good skill sets. But I'll go with this. I think we know Rutgers statistically has had a great start to the season. I think the big knock is the quality of competition, which is always tricky to evaluate when you're earlier in the season. Even though they played some inferior teams, look, they beat Akron by 42. Tech struggled with ODU for a little bit, so don't take a 42-point win for granted. But can you see the team, even though they're playing lesser opponents, can you see the talent there and kind of maintain that optimism that you guys are in for a pretty good season, even though, like we said, not the murderer's row here, but can you just see the potential there that you've shown through 2 games?
Yeah, I think it's a great question too, and I think starting off the season, because this is the first time we're not in the Big Ten East, so there's no Ohio State, there's no Michigan, there's no Penn State on the schedule. Now you insert a couple West Coast teams that are very talented. You got to go on the road to USC. But when you look at the schedule and the bye weeks and, the travel schedule with West Coast to East Coast, a lot of optimism in Rutgers circles, that this could be one of the better years we've had in a while. I think, oddly, despite the way we played those first 2 teams, I don't think there's negativity. But what I would say is some of the realities of the team, like this is still real life, right? And I think – I predicted a 9-3 season, which is on the optimistic. I think it's feasible. People were saying 10-2. I say it was anywhere from 5-7 to 10-2 because so many of these games are toss-ups. It's the first time in a while. But I'll say that like when you actually see it on the field now you see the good and you see the bad and you see the reality. And there hasn't been anything per se bad, but I think like when you see Rutgers go up against Howard and Ethan Kaliakmanis is just throwing the ball everywhere and everything's pinpoint accurate, you're getting excited. But then you come back the next week and he's squeezing balls in the first half into double coverage. We get lucky on a touchdown catch where it ricochets off of somebody. And then he throws an interception while he's getting hit. I just think some things, the receivers are talented. They're good, but Howard played them tough. Akron played them tough in the beginning of that game. There were some separation issues. So I could be being nitpicky, but I think we're seeing some just reality. And so I think I'm still very optimistic about the season, but I'm watching for the first true test now, which is this week, like the first real game that, and we always had it circled. Like this is where it starts. I'm just really sheerly curious,
Nice. Well, let's pivot. You've given us a ton of information on offense, the players to watch, the scheme to look for, the backgrounds of these guys. And that's what we're here for, man. So we can know more about Rutgers. Yeah. For us, we call it know the enemy. You've given us a very good description of what you guys want to do on offense. Let's flip it to defense. Defensive coordinator. Brian, you did the pronunciation. I'm going to try my best here. Joe Harasimiak.
Very close.
Okay. Harasimiak.
Harasimiak. Yeah.
It's
I
gonna
think
be,
that might just be how I talk. This is Harrison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Larry. I was gonna say, I think that you're wasting your talent trying to do football podcast. You should just get on TikTok and like eat food and review it. Like you'll make some money because of your accent, man. Like you just sound like a wise guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Go get you some pizza and eat it on TikTok, and you're gonna make millions of dollars. What are you doing?
I like that. I gotta get on TikTok, bro. I've been holding out for so long.
Man, get on TikTok and eat. You'll be good.
There you go. So tell me how this defense eats. What are they running? I had a pivot somewhere.
So I love that pivot. That's a beautiful pivot. So Joe comes in from Minnesota as well, and he's done really, really well here. They run an interesting 4-2-5 defense where you got two linebackers, and it relies on a lot of athleticism from the linebackers. You have three safeties, one of whom is a quasi linebacker, and that's, you're going to have Flip Dixon or you're going to have Igbinosun. They're going to sneak up. They're going to kind of get in there in the mid-level of that defense sometimes and confront the run or cover somebody in the short passing lanes. The linebacker core is a really interesting thing for Rutgers right now because you started the season preseason with Mo Toure, who was maybe our best player on defense last year, sack leader, really great story. He goes down for the season before it even starts. So he's out. And he was Rutgers likes to, because it's a 4-2-5, it's such an interesting defense. It's such a multiple look defense. They like to move guys around. So he would sneak up on passing downs onto the edge and all these things. Now he's gone. Tyreen Powell, who was arguably maybe the best defender on the entire team last year, he goes down last year against Ohio State, then sustains another injury like an Achilles in the offseason. He, I believe, is going to be able to go this week, but I'm not positive on that. Now, I knew that there was a chance he could start the season, but I always said you're not going to see him until Virginia Tech. I don't know if we're going to see him. But there's rumblings we might.
Right.
There's now, so Moses Walker and Jabome, those are the two guys that were kind of stepping up for them. Moses Walker, a New York kid, was a flip from Penn State. Shown a lot of flashes, still learning the position as far as being in position. Jabome had a great game against Howard, struggled more against Akron. A lot's going to come down to those linebackers and their horizontal play. If Powell plays, it bodes better for the defense. Safeties, I love Shaquan Loyal is somebody who lays, hits hard, comes up with the ball when it's coming his way. Flip Dixon, another guy who's been very good for this team. He's had some injury troubles early in the year, but he's back at it. And Igbinosun, like I said, is another talented player. So the other thing to watch is Wesley Bailey, one of our ends on defense. He's been hurt. He's been out the first 2 weeks. I predicted him to be the sack leader with Toure out. When he's not hurt and dinged up, his motor is probably the best on the team right now. He's a good rusher, good pass rusher, very good pass rusher. Aaron Lewis on the other side, the interior guys, we're still waiting to see who really flashes. Malcolm Ray had a sack up the middle in the interior of the defense 2 weeks ago. So we're seeing how they develop, but it's an interesting defense, going to give you multiple looks. You're going to rely on those linebackers roaming around in that mid-level, and if they can't do it, running lanes are going to get open at some point, especially to the outside. Passing lanes can open up in the intermediate passes, which, then the safeties might make the play, but you might be moving down the field. A lot comes down to that linebacker play because they got to hold down a lot of space and that safety play. So one more thing I'll say is our pass rush as far as sacks has not been where we wanted it last year or the beginning of this year. And a lot of that, I think, comes down to Bailey coming back and then Lewis on the other side being able to close out some of his pressures. We'll see if that happens, especially against a mobile quarterback who can make plays this week. So,
yeah, I know you had mentioned that when we were talking earlier. The concern is, I mentioned that we've, for the most part, had some struggles from a pass protection standpoint. You're like, we haven't done a very good job of getting to the quarterback. So it may be a little weakness on weakness from a defensive versus offensive standpoint there. Sheldon, what you got?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about the cornerbacks. And first off, I want to give a shout out to one of Rutgers' cornerbacks. That is Robert Longerbeam, the pride of Alexandria, Virginia. he was part of that 2020 Virginia high school football class that was, to be polite, a little bit underwhelming. Antoine Powell-Ryland was also part of that class. So you got two guys from that class going against each other. I remember looking him up last year when Tech and Rutgers played. Probably, I would say, maybe one of the best 3 or 4 players for that entire class, even though he wasn't the most highly regarded recruit. But shout out to him. But one of your stud quarterbacks is Eric Rogers. He's a fifth-year senior, ranked 6th in the country among all defensive backs in overall grade at 87. Hasn't really been targeted much. I would imagine that's because he's not letting guys get open very much. And top 10 in coverage grade as well. So talk about Rogers, what he does well, his best skill sets, and just how you feel like the coverage defense has played out so far.
Longer beam, I thought we had Max Melton last year who went to the league this year, and his brother, obviously, Bo Melton. And I thought longer beam has been just such a good player for us. And they weren't even really throwing his way a lot last year because he was such a shutdown corner. There's some story that I guess he left campus. He wasn't going to commit, or Giano followed him, flew down there, went to his family's house. Very highly sought after by this coaching staff. They're very high on him. Has the Ream and Beam podcast that he does too. So look, Rogers comes in and steps up into Melton's position. And I think people were pretty high on him. He kind of developed last year, and in times when he had to step in, started performing quite well. I think people predicted early in the season that he would come up with some interceptions because they were going to throw away from longer beam. And if they're throwing at Rogers, he's going to come away with some. I believe he came away with one, I think one of the first 2 weeks, and my brain is all over the place now this late. But he's a ball hawk, and he's going to be able to stay on guys. And he might take a gamble here and there to grab the ball. But if he does, he'll come away with it. And those guys are both very talented. And the fact that Max left, who was highly regarded, and we were able to fill that pretty quickly, is a testament to the depth on the team. And then behind them, it gets a little more dicey because you have Al-Shadis Salam, who was a running back converted. So it gets a little dicey behind them, but they are quick. They are going to be able to cover. They need to be in position and not take gambles. We had a couple long passes the first couple weeks of the season on some blown coverages and things. One of them might have been Loyal or the safety's fault on a corner blitz, but they're going to try to grab that ball, and they're going to try to stay on guys. They have the speed. They can stay with them. They have the hands. They're all going to hit. They all can tackle, and they come up and they make tackles, and they're not going to be afraid to try to stop somebody for a short gain after a catch. But that's just the tale of those two guys.
Yeah, and you've got Rogers. You weren't lying. Y'all's first score of the season was his pick 6 versus Howard.
Yeah, I thought it was
52 yards. And the Tyreen Powell, we talked about Tyreen Powell a ton last year in the preview. Tyreen Powell was a Hokie commit, flipped to Rutgers very late in the process, and he led in the game last year. He led the team in tackles. So for us, it's I'm glad he doesn't have those few games to get ready for Tech, because coming in cold at linebacker, are you reading your keys right? Are you going to the right gaps? Are you missing assignments? Do you know where you need to go? So that's a big thing. So let me ask this. As a Rutgers fan, you're sitting here, and obviously you and Brian had the discussion. You're probably looking at tape, stats, data. What is concerning you most with the Scarlet Knights heading into Lane on Saturday afternoon?
The defense containing, your offensive scheme and a mobile quarterback who can make plays off script and on script. The fact is, and I was talking to Brian a little bit, this RPO, this spread run type offense. Linebackers are concerned because of health and because of rust for us. And containing a running quarterback the first week against Howard, Scroggins got out of that pocket and he made plays downfield and he was able to escape a bunch. And for a defense that relies on that horizontal speed to be able to contain guys, who's got a guy coming off an injury and another guy out, other guys learning that linebacker position, you're going to have to, that D line, if they get back there, they're going to have to understand that you can't, if they dive at him too quick or they let him get outside. Now, where's that linebacker help? The secondary, like I said, we're running, that many 3 safeties. So they can get up there and they can keep an eye on him and they have the closing speed. But I'm worried about that offense, you know, the way it's going to spread them out and the way that quarterback is going to be able to make plays off script anywhere in the middle of that defense or the middle of the field that could cause Rutgers problems. And I think that it's the first road game of the year. The environment is obviously well known. And so you're going into a rough environment. And I talked to Brian about this. If there's a big play that gets Rutgers on their heels, they want to be a ball control offense. They want to run the ball incrementally down the field and take their shots when they're available. If they get on their heels where there's a big play or two and the crowd's into it, and they're not able to establish that running offense and incrementally get down the field, or a couple drives stall in that way, I think that could be a problem, because if they get behind too much, they're just not built to sling the ball all over the field. And so I think the way those two teams are built, it's going to be really interesting. I was telling Brian this exact thing. Who establishes their identity first? Are we establishing, you know, a run RPO type system where there's quick strikes and there's a quarterback that's making plays? Or are we establishing this, a between the tackles Rutgers type thing where, you know, we're going to laboriously get down the field and try to control the pace of the game? That's going to go a long way in determining the outcome.
Yeah, I think when you talk about that, a shortened game, a game where the clock is running a lot, definitely, I think, plays into Rutgers' favor, much like it did when we were playing Vanderbilt down in Nashville, where they kept the clock moving. They kept matriculating the ball down the field. We couldn't get off the field on third down with that triple option attack. If we have a similar situation, but with Monarchs between the tackles, it could be a long day for the Hokies. Sheldon, you got something before we flip it over to the last question here for Larry?
No, I think I think I'm good. I know, like I said, the secondary has been pretty good. Keontae Hamilton has been the highest grade defensive lineman, so you know they've been able to get some pretty good pressure. Again, factoring the competition, but it just seems like they've been pretty engaged on all fronts.
Nice. So let me ask you this, Larry, before we let you go for the night.
Mm-hmm.
If you're settling in for the primetime games on Saturday night with a big smile on your face, what do you think played the biggest factor in that Rutgers win?
Containing drones, containing the quarterback. I mean, you do a good job of limiting the damage he does, you know, with his skill set, which is a wide-ranging one. Flat out, I have seen it. It just seems that Rutgers, when they're playing their game under Schiano, they fare well, especially with the way the line is now, with the power team, that Big Ten lineup helmet on helmet and play is straight up. They tend to do well. What I've seen throughout the years, and this goes all the way back with Schiano defenses, is when a quarterback is getting too much off script and he's making too many things happen on his own, they can struggle and they can kind of get bewildered a little, like, what are we doing? Because keeping up's hard. If that defense can contain him and his damage is limited, I think they're going to then be able to establish the run, and I think they're going to be able to keep it where they want it, and then they might be able to pull out a victory at the end. So that's what I think the key to victory really is, honestly.
All right, Larry, we appreciate it. Larry, before we let you go, where can we see the show? Where can we follow you on Twitter, Instagram? Let you get all that out before we let you roll here.
Yes, sir, man. So Night Watch, if you just type in Night Watch, Larry K, like a night. If you put in just Night Watch without Larry K, you're gonna get like the, you know, like medieval guys that go out in the park and like there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on.
Have to remember the Larry K, y'all.
Please put Larry K so you don't go down the rabbit hole. I don't know if we'll find you after that. Night Watch with Larry K on YouTube. You'll see my show there. Click subscribe, guys. Whatever fan you are of any, I mean, I talk college football. I'm part of the College Huddle, and I'm just trying to grow my numbers and reach. So find me on YouTube, and then if you type the same thing into Google or any podcast platform, Night Watch with Larry K on you know, Spotify, Apple, any of the podcast networks. I do an audio version. My show with Brian's on YouTube right now, and it's already on all the audio podcasts. I'll send you the link for that later. My Twitter, because I always change the name because I do so many different things. Like, it doesn't say Night Watch. Let me just give it to you right now in case you guys want to follow me there. All kinds of interesting things. Just Larry K NJ. So Larry_K_NJ, and you could find me on Twitter. You'll see Rutgers content, college football content. and a bunch of other stuff. You guys have been an absolute pleasure. Brian, I appreciate you coming on with me. You guys are awesome. Made my night just kind of chilling, talking ball with you guys. So I'm wishing you guys luck, this week and the rest of the year. Hoping we win, but I think it'll be a fun season for both of us either way. So happy we're playing. Hopefully play again, and looking forward to it.
Yep, Larry, we appreciate you taking the time tonight. We appreciate you letting Brian come on your show a little bit earlier. Definitely love being part of the College Huddle. Guys, follow that. They're all out there. So many teams to go find out whoever the Hokies are playing next week. See how that team's feeling. And Larry, from the sound of it, you just don't talk Rutgers. You're talking college ball all the time, and we love to hear that, man. So take care of yourself up in New Jersey, and we hopefully see you in the future, man.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. Later, guys.
Appreciate it, Larry. Get that TikTok started, man.
I'm out. See you later.
See ya.
Yeah.
All righty. So great segment there with Larry. A lot of information about the players, about what they're doing up there. Gotta love to see it. Again, it's great being part of this network where we can bring people on, or in our case, Brian going on, sharing a little bit back and forth. So we got a lot of stuff from Larry. I don't know if we've changed any of our keys up, but y'all, we got to jump into what our Hokie keys are for this week. And I'm going to lead it off with Jonathan Talley. Talley, what is going to be the Hokie keys for taking the dub this week?
Oh, yeah, it was going to be the same for me no matter what, but definitely, reiterated what Larry was talking about. Like, we have to let Kyron be Kyron. He's not a drop back passer. He's not anybody else besides Kyron. The big bruising runs that he had one, at Rutgers last year. He has had one against ODU. They got to let him get outside the pocket. They got to let him run the ball. They got to let him get some contact. That's going to open up the pass game, because if we just try to drop back and pass the ball and drop back and hand the ball off, it might not fare so well. So let Kyron be Kyron is my keys to success.
Sheldon, what about you, man? What is your Hokie keys this week?
I went with establishing the run to set up the pass. I think Tech is a team that has to run the ball well to be effective in passing game. Like Brian, like we've been saying, we want drones to roll out, to use RPO effectively. And the only way you can do that is if there's a threat of, a credible threat of run game. So if they get the run game going, I think that's going to make things a lot easier on drones, and hopefully they can put some points on the board.
All righty. Mr. Brian Siegler, what is your Hokie key this week?
Yeah, for me, it's I'm flipping it over to the defensive side. I think the offense might take care of itself against this Rutgers defense. I'm worried about what they're going to do in the running game, shortening the game, staying on the field, not letting our defense get off the field. So for me, the big thing is no long runs and be able to get off the field on third down. If we can do that, I feel pretty confident about coming out of this one with the W.
All righty, I'm going to kind of get mine in here, and it goes back to how we've been playing this year. First quarter, we have outscored our opponents 21-3. That's plus 18. Quarter three, we've outscored our opponents 30-10. That's a plus 20. Quarter four, 38-14, plus 24. The second quarter is the undoing of this team this year, and we have been outscored in 3 games, 31-3. That is minus 28. That is an insane number. And I go look back last year playing Rutgers. They outscored us in the second quarter, 14-3. I think it's going to come down to what we do in the second quarter. Our coaches have a propensity for having great halftime adjustments where we get people in a rhythm. I am very glad that we got off to that hot start off out of ODU, because it proves to me that we can move the ball early. Second quarter. If we come out even in the second quarter, I don't care if it's 7-7, 10-10, 3-3, 0-0, we are going to win this game. And that leads us right into our Hokie predictions. And I'm going to go first just because I want to go first. And
what you got, Curtis?
What I look at is when they played us last year up in Piscataway, it is Piscataway, New Jersey. That was Kyron Drone's first start as a college quarterback. First start. They had Grant Wimstad, who is a running quarterback, who we have known forever as a Virginia Tech Hokie fan. What is our kryptonite? If you have a running quarterback, it's going to kill us. Larry already said it. He couldn't pass last year at all. That was fine last year. We had one of the best pass defenses in the country last year, regardless. So you take away the wheels, you put a guy back there who you can do the design runs for, but he can't scramble. You can't run a read option. I think we're going to flip it. I think we're going to score a couple more points than them. Give me Hokies 28.
You went on mute again, bud.
You go.
I'll take this next one here. I'm in the similar boat with Curtis here. I don't think it's going to quite be the full boat 8 points there, but I think the Hokies are going to do enough on offense and just enough on defense. It's going to come down to the wire, though, but give me the Hokies 27, Rutgers 23.
Sheldon Moss.
I'm going with a pretty similar score to Curtis here. I've got the Hokies 27-20 winning. I feel like this team responds when the chips are down and people are doubting them. So I think they'll come out pretty motivated, and they're going to get a close win at home when everyone says that they can't do it.
The chips, I like when Sheldon says the chips because I like to go to the casino and play roulette, and I like to have all the chips. My chips are down. I am doubting. I got Rutgers winning this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm just going off of history for the most part, not so much with Rutgers, just with what we've done in the past as well as since Pride's been here. Some crazy stat was out. We haven't won a non-conference game in however many days, so pretty much since 2017. And it just brought up all the feels of me being in the stadium. We're playing Purdue last year, and everything that can go wrong goes wrong. A hurricane comes through. We're out in the rain for 6 hours and hiding and don't know if it's going to be. Then we go into the game and we lose a heartbreaker. Then we go to Nashville and we lose another heartbreaker. I just think it's going to be a close game. Rutgers takes it 24-17. I'm praying that I'm wrong, but that's my prediction as of now.
Got to go with what you feel, man. So we're going to be flipping it over here to big screeners in just a second. But y'all out there who are watching, it's quite a few of y'all tonight. Throw your prediction, what you think the scores are going to be for the Hokies games. So, again, you got me, Brian, and Shelton leaning Hokies, Tally leaning Rutgers, all of us within at least one score. So we don't get your liquor, get your
everybody's flirting in the 20s too. Nobody's predicting a high scoring affer here.
I don't foresee that. But
take
get your liquor.
The under. I take whatever the under is. I think is it what 51 the last time I looked.
I can pull that up. I got it right here on the phone. I think I do. If y'all can get to it quicker, somebody scream it out before me. 44.5.
Oh, it went down.
So it's went down significantly, just like the line started at 4.5. Now it's down. But, we're going to see. We're going to see. I think this is a big make or break game for the Hokies in what we can do this season. So let's flip to it and let's get to big screeners. Let's talk about some other games we might be laying a little action on and some games we'll definitely be keeping an eye on throughout the day on Saturday. Brian Siegler, as always, you lead this segment, sir. Where are we going?
Going to Oklahoma, baby. Tennessee, Oklahoma. The Tennessee is favored by 7.5 here. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think Tennessee is going to go out there and do a little number. So give me the Volunteers in this one.
All right. I'm exactly the opposite of you on this one. Give me Oklahoma, home dog, getting 7.5 points. Because I looked at Tennessee. Anytime they faced any formidable offense last year, they couldn't get above 20 points. I trust Brent Venables. I don't know if Oklahoma will win this game or not, but I do not see Tennessee blowing the doors out of them. I see this being a close enough game that I'll take a home dog at 7.5. Sheldon.
So I saw a stat earlier this week that this is the first time Oklahoma is a underdog by 4 or more points at home since 1998. I think they're going to feel a little bit disrespected by it, and they're going to come out and do just enough to cover.
Tally.
I copied Shelton, and I said Oklahoma.
There we go. Miranda dropped in Tennessee, and the man with the guitar is taking Tennessee as well. Oh, before we get too far, I dropped it in the text there. You want to give the rundown, Curtis, of how we did last week?
Week 3 looks as follows: Brian 5-1, Curtis 5-1, Tally and Shelton 2-4, Miranda 3-3, and our gambling guitar man 4-2. Season records. Everybody, with the exception of Miranda, is above 500. So
we got to get Miranda out of them Buffalo Wild Wings.
Randy,
gotta
if you're
get out
listening
of
tonight, you can't go out
Get out of there.
anymore. Make your bets. So there you go. That's where we stand right now. If you had bet with any of us, if you're crazy enough to do that, most of us would have made you a little bit of money. So
A little bit, very little bit.
All right.
You walked around with an extra $12. You got enough to put back in next week.
Yep.
In other news, everybody knows I love orange, not Tennessee orange. That's the worst color orange that ever was made. Would never wear that orange. It's hideous. Go ahead, Curtis.
All right. I am going to take a look at the Michigan State Boston College game. It's going to be up in Chestnut Hill. Believe it or not, y'all, we are not the red bandana game. No ACC opponent is a red bandana game.
Thank the Lord.
I could not find it. I actually have a red bandana. My neighbor used to be the tech sideline guy. He got one so I could explain to the boys effectively, what that guy did back on 9/11, 23 years ago. I could not find it. They probably got it chucked in their room somewhere, and I can't find it. But BC coming off, damn near pulling off the upset in Columbia last week. They only lost by 6. We made some money off that. This week, they're laying 6.5 to Michigan State. And Brian, what do you think?
You know what? I'm going to keep riding with the Eagles. They're doing me good so far. I'm not going to change it up.
I'm with you. Laying 6.5 to Michigan State. Michigan State, to me, under Jonathan Smith, a new regime up there, probably not quite got where he wants it yet. So I'll take BC as well.
I'm with
Sheldon?
Brian. The Eagles have not let me down this year. It will not happen this week. I like the job BOB is doing. Give me Boston College.
Uh-oh.
I got to listen to all the Alabama fans and tell me how much they hate BOB. So I said I've been betting against him every day, every game. So why start? Why you got to hit at least once, right? I got to stay consistent with losing. So
Blind
I went with
squirrel
Michigan
finds a
State.
nut.
Right.
All righty. Tally going Michigan State, and Miranda and Jason always so coming along with us on the BC.
Hey,
ride.
Tally, you riding solo with the Spartans there, man.
Ryan Solo, man.
All right. Sheldon, where are we going?
We're going to Morgantown, West Virginia. I picked this game because it looked like a pretty intriguing matchup. Obviously, Kansas is off to a slow start. I think they've been getting a little bit unlucky. It was a close spread, 2.5. So with that being said, I will take Kansas. I think they bounced back from a really tough loss against UNLV last week, and they get the win in Morgantown.
I'm actually going to go the other direction here to you, Sheldon. I'm taking Kansas. I think they get on the winning track here. I think this is going to be an outright win for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, same here. I'm with Kansas as well. I think Kansas bounces back. We know Shelton's with Kansas. Tally, what about you?
Man, I'm going to have to go with WVU. I mean, I'm probably going to get a little bit from their sister before the game. Get them hyped up, maybe get a little nipple from grandmama and have a good game.
All righty. And Miranda and Jason, a little opposite. Miranda, Kansas. Jason, West Virginia. Tally, where are you going this week, man?
I am going to Utah and OK State. Pretty intriguing game. I don't know, man. I just like to watch Utah play. They seem pretty physical year in and year out. So I love to watch Utah play. It's always fun to watch those games. I am going Utah in this game. Just for what I said, I just like to watch them play. I like the style of football that they play.
I'm right there with Tally. I'm taking the Utes here as well. I think they've played very well so far to start the season. In my opinion, I think they're going to go in there and probably win by about a touchdown in Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm with y'all too. I think at physical style, we saw Arkansas do it with the to me a lesser cohesive team. I think Utah goes in there and they do win. I'll take the 3 points.
Utah's one of my favorite non-Virginia Tech teams in the country. I love the way they play. I love how physical they are. But their quarterback, Cam Rising, was out last week. He is expected to play this weekend, but we don't know if he's exactly 100%, and he might be a little bit rusty. So for that reason, being on the road, I'm going to take OK State.
Miranda's riding with you, Sheldon, and Jason is jumping on board with me, Tally, and Curtis.
All righty. Last one here before we get to the music, man. We got Georgia Tech traveling to Louisville. This is a massive line. I mean, a massive line. And I'm trying to figure it out. It smells stinky. Louisville is laying 10 points to Georgia Tech, who, I mean, has played solid all year. So, Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a weird line. I don't know if Vegas knows something that I don't, but I think this is going to be a close game, wire to wire. So give me Georgia Tech in this one.
I swear to God, if Haynes King is hurt and we don't find out about it until the first snap, I am going and saying, give me my money back. That's bullshit. Give me Georgia Tech. Give me the 10.
Yes, I'm taking Georgia Tech as well. I just think it's too big of a line. I respect Louisville, but I think Georgia Tech will do just enough to cover.
Same. I feel like that line is too big. If anything, we're going to be looking at about a 3-point game, maybe 7. Give me Georgia Tech.
Miranda is riding with Georgia Tech as well. And our music man is coming in hot on Louisville, laying the 10 points. So that gets us to it, man. Our music man is back. He's picked a big one this week. We got the USC Trojans at Michigan. So I'm going to let him tell you what he thinks about this one.
Welcome to another edition of Guitar Licks and Gambling Picks. I'm Jason Long. We're riding a hot streak right now, so I'm going to keep it short. USC travels to Michigan on Saturday. They're laying 6.5 points. I think USC is going to win by at least a touchdown, so I'm going to go ahead and take USC minus 6.5 versus Michigan. You want to know why? Because California knows how to party. California knows how to party. See you next week.
And there it is. Again, he said laying 6.5 there, taking the Trojans. And you know what? I'm riding right along with that. Give me USC in this one. Curtis, what you got?
I'm with you on it. I've seen USC play a couple times now, and then especially after seeing what LSU did down in South Carolina, putting up a bunch of points. And I know first game and everything, but I know Alex Orji starting, former Hokie commit. It just I can't see Michigan slowing them down enough, even in the big house, to not lay 6.5 points on this game.
I'm taking Michigan on a hunch. I think they're playing at home. They'll be motivated. You know, they had a pretty crappy loss against Texas. So I like teams sometimes to bounce back when, like I said, the chips are down, and I think they're going to respond.
I mean, I was going to go USC anyway, but after he and Jason come in and sang California and turn it into a country, California Love, and turn it into a country song, man, he did Roger Troutman a great honor. So I got to go USC just because of what Jason did.
And obviously Miranda, she is also riding with us. Jason, obviously taking us. Yeah, when he sent us a message and he's like, I got what I'm going to do. We're like, there's so many songs about California, what we could do. That was,
I was not
the
expecting
entire
that.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, lineup.
That's not what I was expecting when he started going. I'm like, okay.
perfect curveball. Great. All righty. So throw them all up there. There you go. Bet.
What it looks like. Who
Entertainment
got it best?
zone.
Who got it wrong? Me and Curtis are pretty close here with our picks, top to bottom.
Curtis and Brian follow each other. They just don't want to. They have a bet with each other. Neither one of them wants to lose. So,
hey, I flipped it up on the first pick there. I win Tennessee. I'm not riding straight across, man.
Well, I'm trying to look here. Yeah, well, you're about the only one that I'm close with. So yeah. All right, real quick. Bunch of y'all responded. I appreciate it out here. So how we feeling about this week? Our buddy Andretti back 24-16.
Hey, he's got the faith back.
Andretti got faith. I was going to say, man, hey, we got some good stuff going on, man.
All right. Hashim, 36-20. Ooh, seeing a blowout. Same
like
way Hokies rock. 35-24. I'd love 35-24 or 36-20. That means I can relax about the last 20 minutes of the game. Our buddy Thomas always out here. Hokies by 4. And we do got one person. Where was it? Jeff's with Dally. And just like you, hope you're wrong on that. So, boom. Anything coming up I done missed or?
No, I gotta give a shout. Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to our buddy LeVar. He was at the game this past week. Sent me some cool videos before the game. LeVar, thank you for always joining in, man. Loyal, listener. Always is engaged with us. Like I said, send me some cool videos before the game. Hey, man, if any of y'all go to the games, if y'all are posted and y'all got some cool shots, man, send them to us. I'll find a way to get Brian to get him on here one day soon. But that was pretty awesome to see some pregame warm-up stuff that LeVar sent. So just wanted to give LeVar a shout out for that. I appreciate you.
Big time. Yeah, LeVar's been riding with us for now pretty much since we started going live on here. So big shout out to him for following along and always tuning in.
Happy you got to a game. Happy you got to a game this year, man. LeVar hit me up, said he got going.
You got to see his classmates out there getting worked a little bit.
True,
so that's always fun.
It's true. All right. Anything else breaking, boys, as we get to the 11 o'clock hour here on the East Coast?
No, just be sure to check my article on the key play tomorrow. I'll have that going out talking about Kyron Jones, the passing game. So hopefully some very good informative stuff on the Hokies passing game tomorrow.
Yeah, go check out the key play. We're going to have Miranda Wilhelm's recap and preview dropping tomorrow along with our show. So boundarycornervt.com. Head there, check that out. Go to the key play, check out Shelton's work. Everybody doing big things and fun things. So we appreciate the support and all the love that y'all show.
SWVA shop. I need some orange hats. I know y'all are here. Get me some orange hats, man. Let me know how much they is. I'm running out. I need some new ones.
He needs new. By the way, it looks like LeVar made the student section mad. Good, LeVar. I'm glad you made them mad. And with that wraps up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast brought to you by Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Jonathan Talley.
I'm Sheldon Moss.
We are part of the College Huddle Network. Our website is at boundarycornervt.com. Listen to all of our episodes. Check out the little merchandise shop. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube accounts, all your favorite podcast sources. Jason, who just played the most countrified edition of California Love you ever heard, making Roger Troutman proud per tally. Check him out at jasonlongmusic.com, where you can link up to all of his music, Apple, Spotify, his YouTube and Facebook pages. Check him out on Instagram, too, because he is dropping the gambling links usually on Saturday mornings for one last time to get that out there. Also, check out where he'll have his live events. He always keeps that updated. We appreciate you guys always for listening, wherever and however you may listen to us. And as always, let's go.
Hokies.